Making bar charts in Tableau can be easy. Making better bar charts in Tableau can be easy with a little bit of thoughtful design. I'm Peter Empey, and I'm going to show you a way to do that. So let's get started. We're going to use this Students' Performance and Exams dataset that can be found on kaggle.com for our building our bar chart today. It will give us some good categories and some good measures that we can use. And so let's go. We're going to start by loading in the data. I have already downloaded it. So it's a Students' Performance CSV. And the question we're going to try and answer is, how well are the master's degree represented in the parents' education of the students? Kind of a mouthful, but it's going to help us make a good bar chart. So here we have this parental level of education. That's going to be our main category. And looking at the data, every single row is going to represent a single student. So we can take just a count of the rows to get the total students. This data set is 1,000 rows representing 1,000 students. So let's get started. Let's start by we're going to build the default first. So we'll name our tab default, and we'll bring out the parental level of education. Good, they're all out there. And then here we'll just take the count and bring it out. And we have a bar chart. This helps us answer the question. We can see that the master's degree appears to be the least represented in the students sampled. And so this is enough for general exploration of your data. You don't need to do much more than this, but we're trying to get to that presentation ready. So let's go one better. We'll start by making a duplicate. We'll go ahead and rename this to good. This one should be a good chart that we can use for regular things. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start by making the bars bigger. We have more space, so let's use that. Okay. The second thing I want to do is to provide some sort of order here. They are right now coming in kind of an alphabetical order. And so on the casual glance, that's not going to help us kind of remember where things might be. But if we provide a kind of hierarchical order or a sequence, it lets your brain kind of forget the axis a little bit. Once you've read it once, you can kind of remember that now there's a progression. So let's go ahead and order these. We're just going to do a manual sort. There is kind of a logical progression kind of in education, so we're going to go for some high school, and then we'll put some college in here since we don't know how much is completed, and go associates, bachelor's, and master's degree. Okay, so now we have a hierarchy. That's great. Let's now take a look at this horizontal axis here. We don't need so many grid lines, so we're going to format this chart area. Come over here, and grid lines, call them grid lines. That's not the right place that we're looking for. We're going to edit the axis, and we need fewer tick marks. We'll get to the grid lines editing it later. But right now, we're going to edit the interval. It was 20. 100 is too few, so let's go for 50. See what that looks like. That's much better. They're still there. They're giving us some indication, but it's not distracting. While we're in here, we're going to change the name of this. We'll call this number of students. Okay, so that's labeled. It's a little, doesn't need to be quite so dark. We can change the font color on this a little bit on the axis. Down here in font, we'll just lighten it up one tick. So it's there, but it's not kind of in our face. We want kind of the opposite though for the vertical labels. We want them to stand out more. It's part of the important question that we're asking because it's showing how the master's degree compares to others. So we'll come in here to the header and we'll find the font. Let's go ahead and increase this to 12 and we'll make it a little darker so that it's easier to read. Something else we want to do, if we can, is if we can get these all on one line. It's easier to read, especially in such a small space than for when we have to break the line. So that's good. We now have a good reading. We have a good size of bars. Sometimes I play with the size of them, so I'm not introducing like what's called maybe zebra striping. You want the gaps between them to be just kind of the right size. Okay, so that's pretty good. We're going to take this one more step farther by putting it on a dashboard. One of the problems with the default is that we don't really have control when this is exported. But we can have more control if we put it on a dashboard. So let's create a dashboard. We'll call this the good dashboard. Not the GUID dashboard, the good dashboard. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick a size. Let's go with 800 by 450. That'll give us a good thing to start with. And I'm going to build my dashboard out of tiled objects. So I always start with my container. And I'm going to bring out a placeholder for the title. And a placeholder for my footer. And then I can bring out my good chart and place it right in between those two. Okay, we're going to hide the chart title. We're going to replace that with ourselves, and we're going to set the chart just to fit the entire view that we have. And we can do that because we've fixed the total size. Okay, that's pretty good. And let's give this a title. I have one pre-prepared here. Okay, let's make this a little bit bigger. Let's see, let's start with that. Maybe 20. Okay, so tells us what it is, students based on the parental level of education. And so because we kind of brought this wording up here, we can actually get rid of this, hide the field labels from rows. That gives us another little bit of space. And in the footer, we're going to put our sources. It's very important, especially when you're trying to present, to try and get these into it as best you can. But I'm gonna tone this down so it's there, but not like in our face. So here we have a good chart. You could maybe share this with your colleagues if this made it into the slide. There's nothing to really catch the eye to distract you from it. You can talk about how the master's degree is represented and things are going well. But we're going to go one more step. We're going to go one more step and make it even better. So we'll start by taking another copy, taking a duplicate of our good, and we're going to rename it to better. All right. So the first thing I want to do is I want to change the color encoding to draw more attention to the question we're trying to answer. So I'm going to do that with grabbing the parental level of education and bringing it to color. And we're going to go into edit the colors, pick a nicer color scheme, and we're going to change everything. In fact, we'll just grab all of these and make those gray. And then we're going to pick a nice color for the one that we want to highlight. So in this case, the master's degree. So right now we're already getting more focus, more attention onto our master's degree. I'd also like to provide a little bit more context in a numerical sense. So let's add the count to the labels. And I actually want to make this a %. So we're going to use a calculation, and it's going to be the % of total. And it looks like we don't need 2 decimal places there, so let's format that. Come over here, and we want the number format. We want to get that percentages, and then we'll narrow it down to 1. If we get rid of both decimal places, the numbers will add up to 101, and that's not what we want, because there's going to be that one person during the presentation who will do the math and find out that it's 101. So let's not add that distraction. We're also going to want to increase the size. We have a lot of room here. So let's go ahead and get us up to 12. Yeah, that looks better. And let's go ahead and match the mark color. So that will then hide the numbers a little bit. They're there, but they're hidden like with the other bars. The gray, our eyes will kind of wash over them. We could read them if we wanted to, but we don't need to. And the bolding the numbers helps bring them out a little bit more. I think I want them a little bigger. Can we make them bigger? Maybe in between there, 13. Okay, so that's good. Now we have a choice now with the axis here. It's no longer the number of students, so we'd have to change the name. But if we're working with people who trust us, we have the option of just kind of dropping this axis. By trust, I mean that we're not going to try and misrepresent the differences here. We're going to have this always starting at 0. If you're not sure if your organization or the people you're presenting trust you, I would just change this to also be a %. So you would just change this to the % of total. Fix the title, fix the tick marks like we did before. But for this context, I'm going to say that they trust me, and I can just hide this axis altogether. All right, that means we can now go in and edit our grid lines to just go ahead and get rid of them. We don't need any grid lines, and we're also going to get rid of this line right here, and that will be here under the rows. Where's the columns? I can never find these when I want to find them. I always have to just start clicking things off until it's gone. Axis rulers. There it goes. They get sneaky sometimes, but that's how I solve that problem. All right, so here we're doing really good. There's one more thing that I want to do, and that is reclaim some of this space from these labels. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to move the labels to be inside the bars. It looks like we will have enough space for that to fit without overlapping anything. You don't always have that option, but we do here, so I'm going to do it. And so the way I'm going to do that is by putting the labels as a text label onto another mark. And so we'll do that by just coming over here and adding a 0, which gives us a duplicate. It just gives us a line of zeros, a constant. And then we're going to make that a dual axis. Now don't worry, that's just normal for things to happen, for it to try and guess the way you really want it to be. Well, we can undo all this and get back to where we were without any problems. We'll synchronize the axis, so now we have the zeros here and then our actual numbers over here. And with that hidden, it unhid all of our axes, but we're gonna hide our headers again. Now we're going to come over here to our 0 marker. Let's start there. We're going to go ahead and they added this measure names to our colors, and we're going to drop that off. So now it's back to our original colors. We're going to change this to a bar, back to where we want. And then we're going to take our parental level of education and put that on the label and get rid of our count. Okay. Next we'll go back here and we will also drop this off. So we're back to our original colors. We'll make it a bar chart. So now the labels are there, but they're hidden because they're the same color. So we're going to come back here under the font and we're going to uncheck the match mark color. And then we're going to make sure that it is white. Okay, and now we can completely hide this header. And now we have to go back and still get rid of this lovely border that we've created when we made the dual axis. So we'll come back to our rows, our grid lines here, and now where we have the row divider, we'll set these to none, go to our column divider and set that to none, and that will get rid of all of the lovely borders. Okay, so now we have a much better, more presentation ready chart. Again, we have our sequence here to help guide the viewer. We've highlighted the one we're talking about, and we've provided some numerical context for those who want to look deeper. Let's come back to our dashboard because we still want to have that control. We'll make a duplicate of that, and then we will just replace this chart with our better one. Hide the title again, and fit entire view. So now we've made better use of our space, even though it seems to have Because we've added when we added the other axes, it kind of squished, it expanded our axis a little bit, so let's go fix that. We'll go to Show Header and edit the axis, and we're just going to come in and fix this to be something a little more friendly for us. Give us a little bit more room. Okay, let's check that out. There we go. Where it's bringing these labels clear out, and you can just keep fiddling with that until you get the right one. When you're having the dual axis, it tries to help out, and we'll just hide this header again. That's better. So we still have our footer, we have our header, but let's take this one last step, and let's just call out right from the get-go the answer to the question. So we say the master's degree is the least represented parental education. So now we have a good title, which answers our question directly, and we have a supporting chart, which shows us how the master's degree is the least represented. We've added a color encoding to draw the eye to where the master's degree is to support our assertion. And then we've added the numericals to, again, bolster that. So we've covered as many bases as we can without distracting. And we've included our reference. We're going to rename this dashboard to be better. The better dashboard. All right. And then when we're ready, we just come up here and export as an image. We'll save each of these out and we'll take a look at them. This is the default. It's quick and it's easy. Good for exploration. Here's an okay bar chart. It's good. It checks all the good boxes and it doesn't distract. And here is one that's a little bit better, which hones in on our message, uses good representation, good verbiage, and doesn't add any additional distractions. Well, there we have it. We have taken a basic bar chart and made it a better one. We ordered our categories to reduce the amount of work the viewer has to do. We took control of the size of our bar chart so that the proportions are easier to read. We used color encoding to draw the focus of our viewer, and we used a thoughtful title to answer the question for our viewer directly. With these points, I hope that you can make your bar chart a better one. Thank you for watching.